नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगण रघुनाथान्वितां तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामेष पुराणार्को धुनोदितः। So we're going to discuss this verse today from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the third canto, fourth chapter, 16th verse. But before going to that verse, I just wanted to give a brief background how we came to this verse. And this verse again is spoken by Uddhava, and to Vidura he was explaining. But this encounter is he is talking to Lord Shri Krishna. So this is a conversation between conversation. So going back to where we last discussed that how Vidura was doing his pilgrimage, and while completing the pilgrimage, when he came to know that the Mahabharata war has ended, and there were like very few people left in the family, only from Pandavas and others are family. So he returned back, and while he was returning, he reached Prabhasa Kshetra, where he met Uddhava, who is a who is cousin of Lord Shri Krishna and looks very similar to Lord Krishna. And his guru is, he has learnt all his knowledge and everything from Brahaspati. So he was so elevated, his understanding was very elevated. So, and he is a very dear devotee of Lord Krishna. So then after in this chapter of in the second chapter of third canto, Uddhava's exalted position is described, like when he was small, his mother will give a toy to play, and that toy is Krishna. and he would see Krishna, and he will forget about eating and doing any other things. Mother will call for, please come and eat, and he would totally immerse in that. And also once when Uddhava came and asked about Krishna, he was filled with ecstatic symptoms. And then he described how Uddhava's remembrance was there, and he started remembering Krishna, about the attractive beauty of Krishna from the verse number 12 to 14. Then he, between verse 15 to 24, he explains about Lord Krishna's mercy and his bewildering activities. So today in this verse also, we will see some of the bewildering activities of Lord Krishna. And then he discusses about Krishna's pastimes in Braja, like his birth, how he went to Vrindavan or Gokul and the pastimes there. After telling that, then in the third chapter of the third canto, it describes the Lord's pastimes out of Vrindavan, that is Krishna's education and marriages, killing of the demons, and the Kurukshetra war. All those things are described. And then in the same chapter, he also described how Krishna was in Dwarka, his Dwarka pastimes, and then events leading to the annihilation of the Yadus. And this chapter, the fourth chapter, starts with the description of, from 1 to 3, it describes how the Yadus disappear, and 4 to 13, then how Lord Krishna meets Uddhava as well as Maitreya Rishi. So Lord Krishna was coming, while he was going to wind his pastimes, he called Uddhava to the Prabhacha Kshetra and to Vrindavan, and he came there, and both of them interacted, and that time Maitreya Rishi also came. And now in this chapter, which is named as Vidura approaches Maitreya. So how Vidura is approaching Maitreya is also described. So when Krishna left, means this is prior to Krishna leaving, when he met with Maitreya Rishi, and he also told what is called as Uddhava Gita, which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 12th canto. 12th canto, there is a description of Uddhava, 12th or 11th canto, it is there. There is a description. And in the same time, Maitreya was also listening to it. So from 4 to 13, the Lord met Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi. And then here, what we are going to discuss is discussing about from 14 to 18. That is when Uddhava got overwhelmed, because he knew that Lord is going to leave the planet, he told. And then he wanted him to stay back because he's very learned and he could go to Badrikashram and spread the glories of Krishna. And he can do it very nicely because he's totally immersed. And Uddhava was in total separation. And he is saying in the 14th verse, he says, to Vidura, he explains that I was overwhelmed by Lord's reciprocation. My words failed in tears and my hair erupted. And now Uddhava is saying to the Lord, so in this 16th...
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram.
Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Sorry. So Uddhava is saying here to the Lord that how it is so much contradiction within you. And this verse explains that. So let's recite this verse now. Okay, let me make it so that it's entire here. Karmani anihasya bhavo abhavasya te.
Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasya te.
Durga shrayothari bhayat palayanam.
Durga shrayothari bhayat palayanam.
Kalat mano yat pramada yutashamaha.
Kalat mano yat pramada yutashamaha.
Svatmarateh khidyati dhira vidamiha.
Svatman ratehi khidyati vidamiha.
One more time. Karmani anihasya bhavo abhavasya te.
कर्माणि अनिहस्य भवो भवस्यते
दुर्गाश्रयोत्थारि भयात् पलायनम्
दुर्गाश्रयोतारि भयात् पलायनम्
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमादयुताश्रमः
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
स्वात्मानरते खिद्यति धीरविदामिह
स्वात्मन् रतेः खिद्यति धीरविदामिह
One more time. कर्माणि अनिहस्य भवो अभवस्यते
कर्माणि अनिहस्य भवो भवस्यते
दुर्गाश्रयोत्थारि भयात् पलायनम्
दुर्गाश्रयोतारि भयात् पलायनम्
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
स्वात्मन् रतेः खिद्यति धीर्विदामिह
स्वात्मन् रते खिद्यति धीर्विदामिह
Let's do some voluntary recitations.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु
Hare Krishna Mataji.
कर्मणि अनिहस्य भवो भवस्यते
कर्मण्यनिहस्य
भवो भविष्यते
दुर्गाश्रयोतारि भयात् पलायनम्
दुर्गाश्रयोत्थारि भयात् पलायनम्
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमादायुताश्रमाः
स्वात्मन् रते खिद्यति धीर्विदामिह
स्वात्मन् रतेः खिद्यति धीर्विदाम्यः
Thank you,
थैंक
Mataji.
यू प्रभु
One more recitation. Voluntary recitation, whoever wants to recite.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You can try. Go ahead, Prabhu. You want to do?
Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you. Karmani anihasya bhavo abhavasya
कर्माणि
अनिहस्य भवो अभवस्यते
Durgashrayo athari bhayat palayanam
दुर्गाश्रयोतारि भयात् पलायनम्
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
स्वात्मन् रतेः खिद्यति धीर्विदाम् इह
स्वात्मन् रते खिद्यति धीर्विदामिह
Thank you, Mataji. Prabhu, you can recite.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please.
कर्माणि अनिहस्य भवो भविष्यति
कर्माणि अनिहस्य भवो अभवस्यते
दुर्गाश्रयोत्थारि भयात् पलायनम्
दुर्गाश्रयोतारि भयात् पलायनम्
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
कालात्मनो यत् प्रमदायुताश्रमः
स्वात्मन् रतेः खिद्यति धीर्विदामिय
स्वात्मन् रते खिद्यति धीर्विदामिह
Thank you. Thank you for the recitations. So in this verse, as I was mentioning, it talks about the bewilderment. So we can just see this verse and then discuss more in the purport. It says Khidyati Dhir Vidam here. Khidyati is bewilderment. Dhi is intelligence. Vidam means the persons with good intelligence. Iha. Iha means in this world. So what is bewildering the minds of most intelligent persons, or the intelligence of most elevated personalities? What it is doing? It is the activities of Krishna, like karmani anihasya. Means Krishna doesn't have to do anything. Anihasya here, it is one who has no desire. He has no desire to do any activity because he is self-satisfied. For what? People do activities for what? People do activities so that there is some kind of reciprocation happens, and they want something from some source. There is some kind of desire is there, but Krishna has no desire. So he doesn't need to do any work, but still he does it. Then bhavo abhavasyate. Abhava means who is actually unborn, and he is taking birth. Bhavo means he's coming to this world and taking birth, like he took birth as son of Devaki and Vasudev in Mathura. Then this is again a bewilderment or contradiction. Third one, Durga Shrayo Athari means Ari. Durga Shrayo Ari Bhayat Palayanam. Kalatmano. Kalatmano is something, Kala Atmana, who is the time personification of time. He is running away from whom? Ari Bhayat means, Ari means a demon or enemy. Actually, Ari means enemy. Because of the fear of the enemy, he is Palayanam, he is going, he's running away. And there are many examples why he is also called Ranachod, because you know that he, with Jarasandha war, he came and he left Mathura and went to Dwarka, and also with Kalyavan he went and he from the war he came out of the Ratha and started walking out of it and running, and Kalyavan followed, and then Muchukunda pastime happened. So it is also bewildering. Durga Ashrayo, he take Ashraya in Durga, like he did in Dwarka. Like for example, Durga means fort. So from Mathura, he went to Dwarka. Then Yat, then Yat is just to say who is Kalatmana is this is happening to him. How? And Pramada Yutashrama Swa Atmarate. Swa Atmarate means who is happy within himself. It is like Atmarama. But still, he is engaged in having relationship, like you can see in household life, in the association of women. So this is all, these four things are bewilderment in the minds of persons. So let's read the translation and read the purport, and it will be becoming more clear. Yes.
My Lord, even my Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work. Although you are free from all desires, that you take birth, although you are unborn, that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So all those like bewilderment is there. Like people are bewildered by Krishna's these activities. What do you think? Like, before we read the purport, what do you think the reason Krishna does it? Is there any reason that comes to your mind before we read the purport? Why Krishna does these kind of activities? He doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to take birth. Why he did do that? Why have reciprocation like 10,108, right? Or how much? 12,108 wives. 16, sorry. 16,108 wives. Why he would have? So those kind of things are there. So why do you think Krishna does that? He is Supreme Lord. He doesn't need to do that. Why he bewilders even the minds of the learned sages?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
I think there are many reasons he does that, and one of the main reason is that these are his pastimes for his devotees to relish and think about him, and always be able to think about him and then finally attain him. like why he does work in Bhagavad Gita. He says that I have to set up an example, like everybody has to work. So that's why he does that. And I think wives were the rishis in Sri Ram's Leela, where they wanted him as husband, and he was Ekapatrati. So there are many reasons for each pastime, but I think on top of that, it's his Leelas for his devotees to remember him.
Exactly. That is the main point why he does. Thank you, Mataji, for bringing that up. He wants it for the pleasure of the devotee. He wants to give the pleasure to his devotees and have active reciprocation with them. That's why he does these activities. That is the main reason why he does these activities. He wants to give pleasure to the devotees. And whoever is attracted, because otherwise, how people will understand, as you are saying, about his leelas, if he doesn't come and so exemplify himself. So that is so nice. But this can also be done by his devotees, but his personal presence and doing is totally different from the devotees, right? So that's why he does that. Let's read the purport.
Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord, nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them, because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss. But some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory, even to such pure devotees, and thus Uddhava asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and it is actually so, because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory then to hear that the Lord personally lifts the Govardhan hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is the supreme Brahman, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, appearing like a man, but Uddhava had doubts whether he could have so many transcendental activities.
This first, Hare Krishna Mataji. So this first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada starts that pure devotees, like, that's why he clarifies on this point as even the learned sages become disturbed. So that is also a bewilderment happening in the mind of Uddhava, that how Krishna can do these things so differently. Like as there is an explanation, Prabhupada says here, it seems contradictory that to hear that Lord personally lifts the Govardhan hill and he do some activities which is done by normally ordinary human beings, like having wives and children. That is one example. So let's read further. Anybody can read.
Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Mataji. There is no difference between the personality of Godhead and the impersonal Brahman. How then can the Lord have so many things to do, whereas the impersonal Brahman is stated to have nothing to do either materially or spiritually? If the Lord is ever unborn, how then is he born as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet the Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasandh and takes shelter in a fort. How can one who is full in himself take pleasure in the association of many women? How can he take wives and just like a householder take pleasure in the association of family members, children's relatives, and parents? All these apparently contradictory happenings bewildered even the greatest learned scholars, who, thus bewildered, cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only imitations.
Thank you, Mataji. So again, the same point is being again discussed here, that Lord's activities are totally bewildering to even the devotees also. But even though they are bewildered, it's so difficult to understand whether inactivity, because Krishna should not do any, because he is beyond activity. Then is inactivity what should be there in Krishna, or there should be some activity? Those kind of, and then whether the activities are only imitation. People think if he is doing humanly activities, are they only imitation? Is he not Supreme Lord? All those things, questions can come, which we already discussed. Let's read further what the solution is. Prabhupada says here.
The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by the mundane speculators. For the mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment, but for the transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the absolute truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities, but the Parabrahman conception is full with transcendental activities. One who knows the distinctions between the conception of Brahman and the conception of the Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such transcendentalists. The Lord himself also declares in Bhagavad Gita 10:2, even the great sages and demigods can know hardly anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. The right explanation of the Lord's activities is given by Grandfather Bhishma Deva, Bhagavatam 1.9.16 as follows. Nahi asya karhichid rajan puman veda vidisitam yad vijijnasaya yukta mukhyanti kavayo apihi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. So all those contradictions, now Srila Prabhupada says that what is the solution? That Lord's activities are all transcendental. What he says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvata. Janma and karma is divya or transcendental. Then in the next line he says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naeti mameti swarjana. One who knows, he never takes birth again. So then again, this bewilderment, Srila Prabhupada says, is there in persons with mundane speculators. But transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. And at the same point, to make the 2 points together, like for example, why Uddhava is then bewildered? As Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse from Bhagavad Gita, even the great sages and demigods can know hardly anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. That also happens. But that is because they are influenced by sometime by the Devi Maya. That is which bewilders only the devotees, not the people who are not in the devotional platform. That is Mahamaya who does that. So, which is the external potency of the Lord. Now, to tell about activity and inactivity, so there are two forms. As Lord can be, the supreme truth can be understood in 3 different levels. One is the Brahma or Brahman, then Paramatma, and then Bhagavan. So in the Brahma realization, there is inactivity. It looks like, because it is the effulgence of the Lord, it looks like there is nothing happening. And normally people who want to go to Brahma and realize that bliss is actually not having any interaction there, because there is no reciprocation. There is neutrality, or there is like kind of a, when there is no reciprocation happening, one becomes bored of that and then again come back. There is a Bhagavatam verse which tells about it. So it says that the Brahma conception of absolute is certainly the negation of the mundane activities. It's not talking about mundane activities. Krishna's activities are not mundane. It is transcendental. But the Parabrahma conception is full of transcendental activities here. So here there is a negation of mundane activities because there is no activities in the Brahman concept. But when there is a Paramatma concept, when there is a Bhagavan and Bhakta, there is a relationship, there is a reciprocation which happens. So that is full of transcendental activities. So that's how the solution is. One who knows the distinction between the conception of Brahma and the conception of Supreme Brahma is certainly a real transcendentalist. So for real transcendentalists, it's not a problem. So that's why Srila Prabhupada said there is no bewilderment of such transcendental. So Uddhava, what he's showing is kind of a pastime that he's describing here. But he is bewildered also looking at Krishna. And as this purport ends here, Nahi asya karhichit rajan, puman veda vidhishtitam. So then he says, Muhyanti kavayo apihi. So kavayo means very learned scholars or learned transcendentalists. They can also get bewildered. Nahi asya karhichit. There is nobody who is not bewildered by the potency or the the beautiful qualities of the Lord. He bewilders because of his activities, how it is, because nobody can understand, because nobody is equal to Supreme Lord. To understand, one has to take shelter of a devotee who is advanced. That's how our understanding happens. So what is the take home for us in this verse is that we should take shelter of advanced devotees of the Lord and understand that Lord's activities are transcendental. And these apparent contradictions are because of his way of reciprocation to his devotees. Like, for example, his marriage with different queens is to reciprocate, because they had done in the previous life so many austerities and bhakti to attain this level. So to reciprocate, Lord has done this activity. Even running away from Mathura to Dwarka is also considered an activity which is pleasing to the devotees, because he doesn't want that all the time somebody like Jarasandha would come and do so many atrocities in Mathura. As long as he's in Mathura, he's not worried about himself, but he's more worried about his devotees. So he thought, why to do this unnecessary fight where so many lives are going? Normally it is not. Krishna defeated Jarasandha 16 times, 17 times. He could have done it on the 18th time also. So, but he chose to do that way. So that his activities are very difficult to understand, because he is Achintya. So for Achintya's activities to understand is different. And he's also Swarat. He can do whatever he likes also. So we have to understand in that concept. So I'll pause here, and if there are any discussion points, any realizations, any corrections, please.